I told you, I'm a man of my word.
What's that? Virgin Hyperloop just signaled that the Hyperloop dream is dying with a shocking layoff of half of its staff. Have you ever wondered what it would look like to burn $500 million?
I'm only burning my half.
Virgin Hyperloop knows. But this video is a little special because we're not just burning one billionaire here, we're burning two.
It's showtime. Our story begins, as these stories often do, with a young up-and-coming
Executive fired for incompetence. In this case, by an internet company called Confinity. However, he kept his shares in that company, and later, when it was renamed to PayPal, he sold those shares and became a multi-millionaire. Having become a multi-millionaire for being fired for incompetence, he naturally assumed that his very special skill set made him the perfect person to revolutionize transport with a new form of transport called the wheel.
I'd probably advocate wheels and
Oh, sorry. That's 5 years into development of this brand new form of transport. At the moment, he's only just proposing the idea, and it's called the vacuum train. Oh, sorry, that's a 100-year-old idea as well. It's called...
I have a name for it, which is called the Hyperloop.
The Hyperloop?
Hyperloop, yeah.
Of course, this is a brand new fifth mode of transport.
But it would be for a fifth mode of transport. So right now we've got, of terrestrial transport, we've got planes, trains, automobiles, and boats. And what if there was a fifth mode?
Sure, it's exactly the same as the vacuum train, but it's really different because it's called the Hyperloop. And of course, as with all things, if you just give it a new name, it immediately transforms from an already patented 100-year-old infeasible idea into a brand new revolutionary form of transport from a genius. And it immediately becomes your intellectual property.
And I'm thinking like maybe I should patent it and then offer to open source the patent to anyone that can make a credible case that they could actually do it. So I'm sort of debating it.
I mean, personally, I'm looking forward to the Hypercyclomobile. I mean, sure, it looks exactly the same as a wheel and does exactly the same thing, but I'm considering patenting it and licensing it out to anyone who can make a credible case that they can make it work.
This is partly prompted by the California train thing. Like we know we've got like a bullet train that's like this, it has the dubious distinction of being the slowest bullet train and the most expensive per mile. So we're setting records at both ends of the wrong ends of the spectrum.
And it may surprise precisely no one that the man who was fired for incompetence took one look at this problem and used his massive experience to jump to the most comically incorrect conclusion possible, and then proposed a solution that was even dumber. You see, fundamentally, the problem here isn't actually building high-speed rail. I mean, let's take a look at high-speed rail in China in 2008. This was a few years before Elon Musk's genius idea that building rail is slow. Building the Hyperloop will be fast and cheap.
I think we can do something that's probably 10% of the cost.
Now, let's take a look at China's high-speed rail about a decade later. Cool. So the problem with the high-speed rail in California isn't the technology of building the rail. It's the bureaucracy, and proposing a more sophisticated railway isn't going to change anything. But this didn't stop Elon Musk from going on and saying that, with proper funding, they could get a commercial Hyperloop carrying passengers by 2020. Well, is $500 million enough for you? Well, not quite. A decade or so on, the most sophisticated Hyperloop company has just laid off half of its staff and announced that it's not planning to use the Hyperloop to transport people. And I give it another 1 or 2 years until they announce that they're not going to use it to transport cargo either. And this, bear in mind, is just the first prediction of Musk that building high-speed rail is slow and expensive. We would be much better off building a Hyperloop that will be fast and cheap. But that's before we touch on the face-palming, stupid elements of the vaporware he was pitching.
Sort of, how would you like something that can never crash? It is immune to weather, 3 or 4 times faster than the sort of bullet train that's being built, twice what an aircraft would do. So you go from downtown LA to downtown San Francisco in under 30 minutes.
You see, I am a connoisseur of the bullshit that surrounds the Hyperloop. From the sheer stupidity of renaming the wheel and calling it a brand new mode of transport to the shockingly flawed white paper that Elon Musk fans worship.
Now let us take a look what the white paper has to say about this.
The white paper. All praise to the white paper.
As we said before, on page 54, section 4.5.2, it is written,
The white paper, all glory to the white paper.
It is written,
and the white paper really isn't worth the paper it's written on. I know Elon worked really hard on it, but it's fundamentally flawed. And if you want to know why, there's a video about it here. But it could never have worked. Well, at least not within the constraints of reality.
It's like a tube with an air hockey table. It's really, I swear it's not that hard.
I'm also a connoisseur of the massively overhyped Hyperloop companies. The ones that rode on Musk's hyper coattails.
Virgin Hyperloop will be the first.
I think that we are leading the race.
They've both raised tens of millions of dollars from high-profile investors. Hyperloop TT was founded in California in 2013 and says it has some $130 million in funding.
Our dream of creating the next breakthrough in transportation takes a big step forward today. We developed a new material. We called it vibranium.
Yeah, it turned out to just be carbon fiber composite, but whatever. Sure, it's a brand new material the way the Hyperloop is a brand new idea in transportation, which they were assuring us would be here sooner than we think.
But it's definitely much sooner than anybody would expect. So, 3 years, and until worldwide adoption, maybe 5 to 10.
In reality, of course, this empty carbon fiber tube of theirs.
So the interior of the capsule isn't finished yet. They didn't let any cameras inside. Currently, it's a black tunnel. It's waiting to be designed in the next step.
Yeah, as far as I can tell, there hasn't been any advance on that in the last 4 years, let alone actually putting in a vacuum chamber of some sort. And this was despite having all of these people working on the project.
The kind of talent that we have at our disposal here is amazing.
I have been in transportation and infrastructure for over 30 years.
Spent 17 years as a scientist and an executive at NASA.
I'm the chairman of the industry-based led Aerospace and Aviation Council. I attended Yale University and started a career in aerospace at McDonnell Douglas.
And for those who think this is flogging a dead horse and that no one takes this seriously anymore, guess who's applying for tax dollars now in the USA?
A lot of people worry about safety issues. Is this a safer way to get around?
The system itself is 10 times safer than an airplane, for example.
And Europe last year backed a similar Hyperloop project to the level of about 15 million euros. Yeah, it's not quite beating a dead horse. For them, this is definitely milking a cash cow. Which is why I keep making these videos, because occasionally, just occasionally, there's a ray of light. This particular ray of light comes from the largest and most sophisticated of all the Hyperloop companies, Virgin Hyperloop, formerly Hyperloop One. Let's remind ourselves of what they were promising. Yep, apparently in 2016, you could go into a vacuum chamber without an airlock.
Imagine if there were a way to travel as fast as a plane with the convenience of a metro. Imagine a ride as smooth as an elevator for the cost of a bus ticket. Let's stop imagining and build it together. Want to bring Hyperloop One to your country first? Enter our global challenge. Visit hyperloopchallenge.com for more info.
And just to let you know how truly empty the computer-generated graphics promises are, this is Hyperloop 1, back in 2016, of what they were going to promise for us in 2020. That's 2 years ago now. And our hero is late for a meeting, so he says, "Take me home," and immediately the options come up. Walk, 47 hours. Bus, 3 hours. Hyperloop, 12 minutes. Boat, 4 hours. Or plane, 48 minutes. Yeah, it's a good thing that we'd got rid of cars by 2020. Otherwise, he could have taken a car in about 40 minutes. And for just how truly delusional these promises are, he's now going to get into a black box. And the black boxes can be coaches or meetings or lounges. At any rate, those little black boxes are then going to drive into tubes, which are then going to go into the Hyperloop. It doesn't really quite go into the details about just how all this is meant to work, but it just works, you know? Look, it's a computer-generated animation. Then, some 12 minutes later, it just unloads all these black boxes that then just sort of do stuff, and miraculously, it's all perfectly well computerized by guys on fabulous control screens until it reaches the pod street access, at which point the black box that you've been sat in for these last 12 minutes just drives down the street somehow, you know, because reasons. And of course, all of this happened in Abu Dhabi 2 years ago. If computer animations were reality. Because it turns out that computer graphics really aren't subject to the laws of physics in the way that reality is. And there were gazillions of news articles covering this, all while China built a massive countrywide high-speed rail network. But, you know, in reality, not in computer simulations. And it was this massively overhyped Hyperloop company that Virgin bought to make Virgin Hyperloop, securing almost $500 million of funding in the process.
I mean, Virgin has gone into the Hyperloop business, and we've invested in the company that is in the lead as far as developing Hyperloop, which will now be called Virgin Hyperloop. It'll be a train that goes into a tunnel that levitates on magnetic levitation, and will travel at speeds of over 600 miles an hour. I was completely blown away. I mean, I think you know, it's strange just going out into the Las Vegas desert and seeing this enormous tunnel running across the desert.
And that is the entire Hyperloop. Well, of Hyperloop 1 anyway. Now, I called bullshit at the time that they bought that, highlighting the fact that it really didn't look like they knew what they were buying.
Think about broadband. At the heart of it is a network that has digital packets that go very fast. 3 types of packets, data, voice, and video.
And again, the internet is not something that you just dump something on. It's not a big truck. It's a series of tubes.
Think about Hyperloop. At the heart of it is a network with 3 types of physical packets. Packets of people, packets of freight, packets of car that can all go on a very fast pipe or connection that can go first mile to last mile in an autonomous way. We believe it's the emergence of physical broadband.
Again, proving that just being rich by no means guarantees that what you're doing isn't stupid. I mean, just think about it. He sat there in front of what is probably a bunch of millionaire investors saying the most categorically stupid stuff and isn't getting laughed off stage. But there's a sort of poetry here, you know, that one billionaire bought into the scammy vaporware of another billionaire. And it was this company that had the first Hyperloop journey. Not really a journey in that they went into a tube, went down it, came back again, and got out exactly the same place they went in.
Yes! That was so good! was awesome.
Today, the first people traveled safely on a Hyperloop. Tomorrow, Virgin Hyperloop will change the way the world moves with an on-demand, sustainable mass transportation system that connects cities in minutes.
Or alternatively, less than a year later, they might be laying off half of their staff and abandoning the idea of transporting passengers. But I couldn't but help notice that they used exactly the same animation for their first Hyperloop passengers ever video as they did for their 2016 promo video. Of all the Hyperloops they're going to build all over the world. Meanwhile, in 2022, let's take a look at the entire extent of the Hyperloop network that they've built in total. This is all the progress they've made in about 10 years. Yeah, that little dot there, that's all the Hyperloop that exists in the world, and it can't actually transport people any distance. People just get into the tube at one end and get out at the same end. And now let's just compare that to the amount of real high-speed rail that China has built in 10 years, whilst these people have been fantasizing about the Hyperloop. And most of that high-speed rail goes much faster than the actual Hyperloop.
Yes! That was so good!
Yeah, I'm not entirely sure that 10-second ride was any more convincing that this is a revolutionary new mode of transport than it was 100 or so years ago.
The pneumatic technology, which was first demonstrated in Battersea Park in 1861, involved using pressurised air to propel small wagons through a tight iron pipe. The small cars were of course designed for carrying mail, not people, although there were apparently cases when one or two brave souls had a go at lying in one of the small wagons.
And the $500 million test centre that Virgin Hyperloop was going to build.
Billionaire Richard Branson on Thursday announced that the state of West Virginia has been chosen to host a $500 million certification center.
Hyperloop moves people and goods in pods through a vacuum tube at speeds exceeding 600 miles per hour and can travel from Pittsburgh to Chicago in 41 minutes.
A super high-speed travel system. The center will be the first U.S. regulatory proving ground for a Hyperloop system designed to whisk floating pods packed with passengers and cargo through vacuum tubes at 600 miles an hour.
Well, that's just clearly not going to happen at this point. But let's just savour how their plans have changed over the last year or so.
Designed to whisk floating pods packed with passengers and
not packed with passengers
and cargo through vacuum tubes at 600 miles an hour.
Yeah, if only someone could have seen it coming. Ladies, gentlemen, a moment to reflect from some of the best aged comments from some of Elon Musk's most dedicated fans from 2019.
Hyperloop? Hyperloop? Why would you need a Hyperloop? We have airplanes and high-speed railway. Hyperloop. Pfft. This is just some far-out sci-fi stuff. It will never happen. This unrealistic transportation concept can easily be busted.
It will never work. There are just too many problems with it. The entire Hyperloop could be destroyed in seconds. It will fail hard. It will fail so hard. So our good Elon announced that SpaceX would build an even longer test track, a 6.2 mile or 10 kilometer long test tube. But to make it more realistic, this time even with a curve. And the coolest thing, it will be ready for the next Hyperloop competition in 2020. We're really looking forward to it.
That tube wasn't built then, it's not built now, and there's no sign that it will ever be built. But rumour has it, somewhere deep in their hearts, these people still accept Elon's promise, the white paper, that he is very confident that he will start building it next year. Right alongside these genuine humanoid robots that he's going to be producing in mid-2022.
So, are you also excited about so many upcoming Hyperloop projects? Do you believe that Virgin Hyperloop 1 will be faster with their Indian Hyperloop track? Or will Hyperloop TT be faster with their Chicago-Cleveland version?
Hard to say, but probably they will be faster in India. Because those countries, they just want to build stuff for prestige and they want to be as fast as possible to be the first ones.
It's almost like Elon Musk was fired for incompetence levels of wrong when he said this.
It's like a tube with an air hockey table. It's really, I swear it's not that hard.
It seems like the people crying debunked are assuming that all of the scientists and engineers at SpaceX and all these universities haven't taken a grade 11 physics course.